You cancel plans more often than you admit. Not because you hate people, not because you're lazy, but because something inside you whispers, stay. Stay where it's quiet. Stay where no one is judging you. Stay where you don't have to perform, or pretend, or explain yourself. And every time you choose your room over the world, there's a strange mix of relief and guilt. Relief, because you finally feel safe. Guilt, because you wonder if you're missing out on life. You see other girls going out, laughing loudly, living freely, and a small voice inside asks, why am I not like them? But here's the truth no one tells you. The girl who loves staying at home is not as simple as she looks. There's a story behind that silence, a psychology behind that comfort, and a hidden strength behind that choice. But there's also a danger that most people never realize until it's too late. And if you've ever chosen solitude over noise, this might quietly explain you in ways you didn't expect. She wakes up late, or sometimes early. There's no rush. The room is still, familiar, safe. Her phone lights up. Messages, invitations, plans. Come out tonight. We're all going. You never show up anymore. She reads them. She even smiles a little. Then she locks her phone. I'll go next time. She always says that. Instead, she makes tea, sits by the window, puts on music that feels like her thoughts. Hours pass, and strangely, she doesn't feel lonely. She feels that peace. But sometimes, late at night, when everything gets too quiet, she wonders, am I healing or hiding? Here's where things get interesting. Because loving your own space is not a weakness. It's often a response. A response to a world that feels too loud, too fast, too demanding. Some people recharge by being around others. But girls like her, they recharge by being alone. Not because they don't love people, but because they feel everything too deeply. Every conversation, every tone change, every awkward silence. It stays with them longer than it should, so their mind learns something important. Home is easier. At home, there's no pressure to impress, no need to filter words, no risk of being misunderstood, just quiet and control. That's the first layer of her psychology. She doesn't just like being at home. She feels safer there. But there's a second layer, and it's a little more complicated. She doesn't just avoid noise. She avoids emotional risk, because somewhere in her past, there was a moment where being open didn't feel safe. Maybe she was judged. Maybe she was ignored. Maybe she gave too much to the wrong people. So now, she chooses distance. Not consciously, but quietly, subtly. She tells herself, I'm just a home person. But deep down, it's also, I don't want to get hurt again. Pause for a second. Think about this. When was the last time you canceled something? Not because you didn't want to go, but because you didn't want to feel uncomfortable? Be honest. That answer matters more than you think. Now here's something most people misunderstand. They think girls who stay home all the time are missing life. But that's not always true. Sometimes, they're building a world inside their mind. A rich one, full of thoughts, dreams, scenarios, conversations that never happened, but feel real. They reflect more. They notice more. They feel more. And that gives them depth. The kind of depth that people don't see immediately, but feel when they get close. That's why when she finally opens up, it surprises people. Because behind that quiet is a storm of insight. But here's the twist. The same mind that gives her depth can also trap her. Because when you spend too much time inside your head, you start creating stories. What if they don't like me? What if I say something wrong? What if I don't belong there? And suddenly, staying home doesn't feel like a choice anymore. It feels like the only safe option. Let me show you something subtle. At first, she stays home because she wants peace. Then, she starts avoiding things that disturb that peace. Then, she begins to fear losing that peace. And without realizing it, her comfort zone becomes a cage. And cages don't feel like cages. When they're comfortable. Another pause. Ask yourself, do you stay home because it makes you happy? Or because it protects you? There's a difference. And your answer changes everything. Now let's talk about something deeper. Control. The outside world is unpredictable. People change moods. Plans fall apart. Conversations get awkward. But at home, everything is predictable. She controls the environment, the noise, the interactions. And when life feels overwhelming, control feels like relief. So her brain learns. Stay where things are manageable. This isn't weakness. It's adaptation. But adaptation can quietly turn into limitation. Real life example. There's a girl who always preferred staying home. She told everyone she loved her own company. And she did. But over time, she stopped attending birthdays, then small gatherings, then even simple coffee meetups. Not because she didn't care, but because every time she thought about going out, her mind created reasons not to. It'll be awkward. I won't enjoy it. I'll just feel out of place. So she stayed home. Again and again, until one day, she realized she didn't just avoid people anymore. She forgot how to be around them. That's the hidden risk. Not loneliness, but disconnection. Slow, invisible, quiet disconnection. But here's the part most people miss. She doesn't need to become someone else. She doesn't need to suddenly love crowds or force herself into a life that doesn't fit her. Because the goal is not to change who she is. It's to understand why she is the way she is. Because when she understands that, something powerful happens. She starts choosing instead of reacting. Instead of saying, I can't go, she starts asking, do I actually want to go, or am I just avoiding discomfort? Instead of saying, I'm just like this, she starts asking, is this me, or is this fear dressed as comfort? And slowly, her world expands. Not dramatically, not overnight, but gently. One step outside, one conversation, one uncomfortable moment that didn't break her. Because here's the truth. She was never weak. She was just protecting herself a little too well. And protection, when overused, becomes isolation. Now let's bring this back to you. Because if this felt personal, it probably is. You might not hate the outside world. You might just be tired of pretending in it. You might not love being alone. You might just love not being judged. You might not be avoiding life. You might just be avoiding pain. And that's human. But here's the realization that changes everything. You don't have to choose between being safe and being alive. You can have both, but only if you're willing to feel a little discomfort without running away from it. Because growth doesn't happen in noise, and it doesn't happen in complete isolation either. It happens in the space between, where you feel slightly uncomfortable, but still okay, slightly exposed, but still safe. And that's where life starts opening up again. So maybe next time, when your phone lights up, and that familiar urge to say, maybe next time appears, pause, not to force yourself, but to understand yourself. Ask, what am I really choosing right now? Comfort or fear? Peace or avoidance? And whatever the answer is, own it, because awareness is where everything begins to change. In the end, the girl who loves staying at home is not broken, not boring, not missing out. She's just careful with her energy, careful with her emotions, careful with her world. But life isn't meant to be lived only in safe places. It's meant to be felt, sometimes messy, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes unpredictable, and maybe, just maybe, the version of you that you're curious about, the one who laughs a little louder, explores a little more, connects a little deeper, isn't outside your personality. She's just outside your comfort zone, and she's been waiting patiently for you to visit her. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below. See you in the next video.